In every life, there are rooms we must walk into that feel heavy with silence, spaces where our spirit strains against walls built of expectation, pressure, or neglect. Even here, in the shadows of an unhealthy work environment, the universe is not absent. What looks like discord is often only another movement in the great symphony of existence, where every note, even the dissonant ones, belongs to the score. The struggle is not proof of your smallness, but a reminder of your significance, that you are alive, aware, and woven into something infinitely larger than the confines of any office or workplace. When we pause long enough to listen, even the weight of discontent carries wisdom, guiding us back to alignment with our deeper purpose. And perhaps that is the gift hidden in the discomfort, an invitation to remember that every challenge is not an interruption, but a doorway into the greater unfolding of who you were always meant to be. Imagine this for a moment. You walk into work, and before you even sit down, you feel it. That quiet tightening in your chest, that heaviness in your body. Maybe it's the way the room feels charged with tension. Maybe it's the subtle undercurrent of judgment. Or maybe it's the absence of kindness that weighs more than any cruel word ever could. You sense it, but most days you brush it off. You tell yourself, it's just work. Everyone deals with stress. Dirk, I can handle this. And while that may sound like strength, what you're really doing is silencing a part of yourself that is begging to be heard. An unhealthy environment doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. It shows up as fatigue you can't explain. It shows up in the Sunday dread that steals your joy long before Monday even arrives. It shows up in the way you begin to question your worth. Not because you've forgotten it, but because the air around you is filled with doubt, comparison, and fear. But here's the truth. That disquiet you feel isn't a punishment. It isn't a flaw. It's not weakness. It's a signal. It's your soul's way of saying, this doesn't belong to me. This isn't aligned with who I am or who I'm becoming. And when you start to see that signal for what it is, the entire story shifts. You stop asking, what's wrong with me? And begin asking, what is this trying to teach me? Because life has this way of speaking to us through contrast. If joy is the sound of harmony, then pain is the sound of discord. Neither is accidental. Both belong to the music of your life. The discomfort you feel in an unhealthy environment is not there to shrink you. It's there to guide you. It's there to guide you. It's an arrow pointing you toward change, toward clarity, toward a deeper truth about what you will and will not allow in your sacred space. Think about it. When a fire alarm goes off, you don't argue with it. You don't say, well, maybe it's just overreacting. Maybe I should just ignore it. No, you listen. You act. You move. Because the signal exists for your protection. That tightening in your chest, that restlessness in your spirit is no different. It's your alarm system, reminding you that staying silent, staying small, or staying stuck will cost you more than you realize. And yet, so often, we learn to numb it. We drown it out with busyness, with excuses, with the lie that, this is just how life is. But life is not meant to be endured. Life is meant to be lived. The moments of discomfort aren't here to condemn you. They are here to awaken you, to nudge you out of autopilot, to call you back into alignment with who you were always meant to be. So the question isn't whether the environment is toxic or not. You already know that in your bones. The real question is, are you willing to honor the signal? Are you willing to stop pretending that the ache is normal? Because when you do, something shifts. You begin to see the discomfort as a doorway, not a dead end. You realize that the very tension you've been resenting is the same force that is pulling you toward growth, toward courage, toward a future where you are not just surviving, but fully alive. The disquiet is not your enemy. It's your compass. And if you have the courage to listen, it will not just point you away from what drains you, it will lead you toward what was always waiting for you. So when you feel it, the tightness, the heaviness, the dread, don't dismiss it. Don't bury it. Don't tell yourself it's nothing. That feeling is everything. It's your life asking you to listen. And here's the closing truth. What feels like the breaking point is often the beginning of your becoming. There's a truth we don't often talk about. The most powerful space you'll ever occupy is the one no one else can touch. And that's the space inside of you. When you find yourself in an unhealthy work environment, it's easy to believe that everything around you has power over you. The moods, the gossip, the pressure, the unspoken rules. And here's the thing, the chaos outside only has as much access to you as you allow out. And that's where your inner sanctuary comes in. Think of it this way. No matter how loud the world becomes, you have this hidden room within yourself. It's quiet, it's steady, and it doesn't bend to the noise. Most of us forget that it even exists because we're so consumed with reacting to the harsh email, the rolling eyes in the meeting, the unreasonable demands. We get swept up, and before long, the environment owns us. But the truth is, you always carry a space that cannot be owned. That inner space is yours to protect. And when you honor it, you begin to transform not just how you survive unhealthy environments, but how you move through life. Guarding this space doesn't mean building walls. It's not about shutting people out or pretending you don't care. It's about creating a filter, a boundary that says, I decide what gets in here. When someone's negativity comes your way, you don't have to invite it in. When the workplace culture pushes you toward burnout, you don't have to surrender your peace. You can choose to keep that sacred space clear, uncluttered, and aligned with who you are. It's like standing in the middle of a storm. The winds are howling, the rain is beating down, but deep in the center there is calm. The storm doesn't disappear, but you're not tossed around by it anymore. That's what it feels like to guard the sacred space within you. The storm keeps raging, but you stop confusing the storm for your identity. This matters because unhealthy environments will try to convince you that you are powerless. They thrive on wearing you down, on making you forget that your mind, your energy, your perspective are still yours to command. And when you give in to that lie, that's when the environment wins. But when you remember your inner sanctuary, you remember that your spirit is untouchable. You may not be able to control what's happening in the room, but you can always control the meaning you give it, the energy you let it take, and the peace you choose to hold on to. And here's the paradox. The more you guard this inner space, the less power the environment has over you. Suddenly, the comment that would have ruined your day just rolls off. The toxic dynamic that once consumed your every thought doesn't find a place to stick because you've decided this mind, this heart, this spirit is sacred ground, and not everything deserves access to it. Now, let's be honest. This isn't easy. It takes practice. It takes choosing again and again to pause instead of react, to breathe instead of spiral, to remind yourself that not everything you hear deserves a seat at your table. But every time you choose to guard your inner space, you build strength. You reinforce the truth that while you can't always control the outer environment, you can always protect the inner one. And here's the beauty of it. When you live from that sacred place, you don't just survive unhealthy environments. You outgrow them. You begin to see that you're not defined by where you work or who misunderstands you or how broken the system feels. You are defined by the way you protect your light in the darkness. So the next time the chaos comes knocking, remember this. Your peace is not up for negotiation. Here's something most of us were never taught. Boundaries are not walls, and they're not weapons. Acts of love. When you're in an unhealthy work environment, they're absolutely essential because without them, the lines between who you are and what the environment demands of you begin to blur. Before you know it, you're giving pieces of yourself away in exchange for approval, security, or just the fragile hope that things will finally calm down. But here's the truth. Every time you set a boundary, you are saying, I remember who I am. You're reminding yourself and everyone around you that your energy, your time, and your peace matter, and they are not infinite resources. The workplace might treat you like they are, but they're not. When you draw that line, you are not pushing people away. You're creating a clear distinction between what you will allow to touch your sacred space and what you won't. Think about it like this. A boundary is a doorway, not a barricade. You're not locking the world out. You're deciding what's allowed to enter and in what way. Without a doorway, anyone can come barging in at any hour, with any demand, with any energy. But when you install that doorway, you suddenly have choice. You can say, it comes in. That stays out. And choice, that is freedom. The challenge is, in environments that are toxic or unhealthy, boundaries can feel dangerous. They can feel like rebellion. They can stir up resistance in others because boundaries expose the imbalance that the environment has been benefiting from. But hear me on this. Someone else's discomfort is not a sign that your boundary is wrong. It's a sign that your boundary is working. Let's get practical. A boundary might be as simple as deciding not to check emails after a certain hour. It might be declining to engage in gossip that drains your spirit. It might be refusing to accept the silent expectation that you will always over-deliver at the cost of your well-being. These are not grand gestures. They're daily choices. Choices that affirm, my worth does not come from how much of myself I burn to keep this place warm. And here's the thing. When you start honoring your boundaries, you'll notice something shift inside of you. That old pattern of resentment, the one that built up every time you said yes when you meant no, begins to dissolve. You stop carrying the weight of other people's expectations, and you start carrying yourself with clarity. You stand taller. You speak with more conviction. You walk into the same environment, but you are not the same person. And that changes everything. Some people will notice. Some will resist. Some may even criticize. But remember, boundaries are not about controlling others. They're about honoring yourself. You don't owe anyone an explanation for why you're protecting your peace. You don't owe anyone justification for why you will no longer play small or silent in the name of keeping the peace, because protecting your energy is not selfish. It's sacred work. And here's the paradox. The more you practice boundaries, the more you actually have to give. You show up clearer, calmer, and stronger. You stop leaking energy in 100 different directions, and you begin to channel it toward what truly matters. That's when the unhealthy environment loses its grip, not because it suddenly becomes healthy. It may not, but because you are no longer giving it free access to your worth. So if you feel out of place, don't see it as defeat. See it as direction. See it as life nudging you toward a future that can actually hold the weight of your dreams. And here's the closing truth. When the room no longer fits, it's not a sign to shrink. It's a sign to move. It's a sign to move. Pain has a way of convincing us that it's pointless. When you're in an unhealthy work environment, it can feel like every ounce of struggle is wasted energy, like the stress, the frustration, the endless cycle of exhaustion and self-doubt are nothing more than dead weight. But what if the very thing you're resenting is also the very thing shaping you? What if the pain isn't here to break you, but to build you? Think about it. Some of the deepest lessons in life don't come wrapped in comfort. They come wrapped in challenge. They come in the form of being overlooked when you know you've worked hard. They come in the form of biting your tongue in a meeting, realizing later that your silence cost you your voice. They come in the form of feeling invisible in a system that never truly saw you. These moments don't feel like wisdom at the time. They feel like wounds. But with perspective, they become teachers. When you learn to look at your pain as a source of wisdom, everything changes. Instead of spiraling into the thought that I'll never get out of this, you begin asking, what is this teaching me? How is this shaping me into someone stronger, clearer, wiser? Suddenly, the frustration you felt with your boss's criticism turns into a lesson about resilience. The disappointment of being passed over for a promotion turns into a spark that ignites your determination to seek alignment somewhere else. The fatigue you carry becomes a wake-up call that your boundaries need to be stronger. Pain is a force, and you, whether you realize it or not, are being shaped in its fire. Every time you endure a toxic interaction without losing yourself, you're practicing patience. Every time you push back against unrealistic expectations, you're practicing courage. Every time you walk out of that building feeling drained, but still return with your dignity intact, you're practicing resilience. These are not small things. They are the muscles of your character being built moment by moment. But here's the part we miss. Pain doesn't automatically turn into wisdom. Okay, we have to choose it. We have to pause long enough to ask, what am I meant to carry forward from this? Without reflection, pain just repeats. But with reflection, pain transforms. And when it transforms, you realize that the very environment you thought was holding you back has, in some strange way, been refining you. I know this isn't easy to accept. It's tempting to want to erase the difficult seasons, to wish they never happened, but think back for a moment. Isn't it true that some of your most defining strengths were born in the hardest times? That clarity, that grit, that ability to stand tall, you didn't learn those in the easy chapters. You learned them when life pressed against you. And here's the paradox. Sometimes the pain doesn't just teach you how strong you are, it teaches you what you deserve. It teaches you not to tolerate environments that belittle your light. It teaches you to demand better, not from arrogance, but from wisdom. Because once you've seen the cost of staying small in unhealthy spaces, you carry that memory with you and it becomes your compass. So instead of asking, why me? Ask, what now? Instead of seeing your pain as wasted timing, see it as sacred training. Because this isn't just about surviving a difficult job. It's about becoming someone who carries unshakable strength into whatever comes next. Every scar you collect in these environments isn't just a mark of what hurt you, it's a reminder of what you overcame. And when you can see your pain through that lens, you realize it was never just pain. It was preparation. And here's the closing truth. Your pain is not proof of your weakness. It's the birthplace of your wisdom. There's something bigger at play here, and it's easy to forget when you're stuck in the grind of an unhealthy environment. When the meetings drag on, when the tension is thick, when the culture feels heavy, it can trick you into believing that this is the whole of your life. But it isn't. Work is a piece of your story, not the entire book. And no environment, no title, no paycheck defines the totality of who you are. Step back for a moment. Look at your life like it's a vast mosaic. Every experience, the good, the bad, the confusing, the beautiful, is a tile. Some tiles shine, others are cracked, but together they form a design that is richer and more intricate than anything you could see up close. That unhealthy environment you're in, it's a tile. It belongs to the mosaic, but it isn't the whole picture. And the meaning of your life cannot be reduced to one difficult chapter. You're not just clocking in and out, you're contributing to the unfolding of your own becoming. Even the environments that feel suffocating have their place in shaping you. They sharpen your sense of what matters. They strengthen your ability to stand tall. They remind you, often painfully, that your worth cannot be measured by someone else's approval. Think of it like music. A symphony isn't made of only sweet notes. It's the tension, the silence, the unexpected shifts that give the music depth. Life works the same way. The unhealthy environment might feel like dissonance, but even dissonance belongs. It creates contrast. It makes the moments of harmony more profound. And when you step back, you begin to see this too has a place in the larger song of your life. This doesn't mean you stay forever. This doesn't mean you excuse the dysfunction or ignore the harm. What it means is that you stop letting this environment define your identity. You stop letting it write your worth. You understand that you are here for a reason, even if the reason is simply to learn, to grow, to remember your strength, so that when you move on, you move with more clarity than you've ever had before. And here's where the shift happens. When you see yourself as part of a greater whole, the environment loses its power to shrink you. You're no longer trapped in the story of this is all I am, or is all there is. You realize that your work is not your identity. It is just one of the many stages where your life's music plays. And if this stage isn't honoring your melody, then maybe the music is calling you elsewhere. Because ultimately, your life is not a random collection of struggles. It is a design. Every high, every low, every detour belongs. And you right now are exactly where you are supposed to be, not because this environment is perfect, but because it is shaping you for what's next. So instead of seeing yourself as stuck, see yourself as in motion. Instead of believing this chapter defines you, believe it refines you. Because when you hold your story in that way, even the hardest seasons become sacred. And here's the closing truth. You are not here to be defined by the environment. You are here to be revealed by the symphony of your becoming.